All right, beautiful music there. Of course, we want to move on to the next part of the show where we are talking about the youth's role and also online campaigning and offline campaigning, if you want to call it that. It's been all we see throughout the week. What you call the leadership or the apex discussing matters, but how does this relate to the youth who are indeed the majority in this country? To help us put these matters in perspective, we have Gideon Keter, who is the chair of the Jubilee Youth League, and then we have also John Ketora, who is the ODM Youth Chair as well, and we have a lovely lady here, Ruth Mkuba, who is the chair of the Deputy Women Leader of NAC Kenya, and then at the end there we have Bernard Wakoli, who is the Ford Kenya Youth Chair, or like he likes to say, President. Yes. All right, so of course let's get right into it, and I guess what the two topics that have been very people have been very vocal about online is, the first one is of course arising from what the sentiments that were made or interpreted or misinterpreted by the NASA leader Raila Odinga. Yesterday he returned to Kajiado a week after his comments on land in the same county touched off what is a heated controversy. Of course, he campaigned in Loitoktok and Kitengela among other towns. He stuck to his defensive argument that he only meant to discourage the Maasai community from selling ancestral land. But after his statement, of course, there were comments from Gideon to arrest Raila. So I guess we'll start from you. About what do you think about the comments and his argument that he didn't, say, he just discouraged them from selling their ancestral land?
Yesterday, his move yesterday to go back to Kajiado was a sign of to go and apologize, but he really didn't want to say that I'm going to apologize for my statements. But as a presidential candidate, I expected him to be more careful and invest in the kind of words he's using, especially to his followers or his listeners. And his statement, initial statement, was very wrong. It was inciting, and yesterday move, at least he went there and clarified that this is this and this, but initially he had made an error of which he was equivalent. He was supposed to be judged or arrested. Yeah.
John?
Yeah, thank you. I'm a resident of Kajiado myself. That's where I come from. Definitely I come from the community. That is a Ma community, of which it was purported that Honorable Raila incited them. But to me, and just to be very objective, his statements were just statements of an elder that who just openly advised a community, because the Ma community, most of them misuse their land out of ignorance, and therefore even them to have been advised that if you have to sell your land, be very rational, because this is a factor of production, that you cannot just misuse it. If you have to sell it, then it must be you are selling it out of a pure reason. So there was nothing inciting about it, and you will all know that even the late Ndimama, before he died and all that the life he lived, he kept on questioning the community on how they manage their land, because you see, once you release that land, getting it back, you cannot get it back. On him, on His Excellency, the incoming President Raila Odinga, going back to Kajiado yesterday, it was something. It did not just go to rectify the statements that he made. Actually, if you saw his itinerary before he went to Kajiado last time, that itinerary was already out. So it was just part of his plans. So it was not something to go and calm the waters. So I will just want to say that even for Jubilee, they are just going out of, they have missed an agenda. So they just want to pick something and try to ride on it, of which they will not succeed. On their statements on arresting Raila, it is not coming out of this only. We have had it there before. Immediately when they took power, they told him that he's not a VIP, so he is going to be denied all the VIP lucratives that come out of it. There was the issue of when he brought up the NYS scandal, they also say let's arrest him. So I just want to tell them, this is not where we are now as a nation. We can't dare go that route whereby we have to intimidate our leaders, especially such a senior individual like Raila Odinga.
Because I see Gideon shaking his head, we'll get back to you in a minute. Ruth, what are your sentiments about the whole issue?
This being the campaign period, it is very important that our leaders make sure that what they talk to the people is not, well, misquoted, or it's not deviated. Yeah, so it's important that whenever we are making statements out there, that we make statements that will not incite people, because right now we know it's very easy for a country, especially when we are going to elections, because there is a lot of temperatures, you know, a lot of pressure from all quarters. It's important that we watch out and avoid incitement. And in case we realize that we made a mistake, it's always good to go back and tell the people, hey, this is what I meant, because it's very important, because we have supporters, and we know that if one area erupts, then we know what could happen. So we should take responsibility as leaders and talk the right things at the right time, especially now being an election period. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Willis, for having me here. Looking at the statement made by the Right Honorable Prime Minister and the reaction that came after that statement, you realize that you are living in a country where we don't want to face reality. From historically, you have seen the Maa community facing a lot of challenges when it comes to land. And I want to put it clear that even the government itself has come up with measures that will ensure that the Maa community does not sell their land like randomly, anyhowly. There are some cases where we have seen government coming up with the you know, instructions that a person cannot go sell his land without being accompanied by his wife or his wives, because the Maa community is mostly polygamous, and we have to appreciate that. So when Raila came on stage and said that, advised the Maa community, something that he was just reiterating from what has been going on, that let's be cautious when we are selling our land. Let's not sell our land because of poverty, or because of what the challenges we are facing as a country at this moment, looking at the high cost of living. So it's prudent to realize that in such a community where there are no opportunities, people are tempted to sell their land at a throwaway price. And land is one of the historical injustices that this country has been facing since time immemorial, since independence. And we know, everybody knows who are the great owners of land in this country. People know those who have high appetite for land in this country. And those who have high appetite for land might end up getting land from the Maa community at a throwaway price, defranchising the community that has already been marginalized, you know. So the advice by the Right Honorable Prime Minister was good, and I'm shocked to see leaders of people like Rachel Shebesh, who have been under the leadership of Raila Odinga, coming up and saying that she's going to abstain from sex if Raila is not arrested, just because of the statement she made. The statement he made positively is something that we have gone low as a society. What does it matter if you don't, if you abstain? In fact, by abstaining, you are helping to control HIV. So I encourage her to continue abstaining for the longest time possible. Thank you.
I would like to actually remind my friends that Raila is a politician. His statements were not by mistake. He did it purposely. And if you have studied Raila's politics, he likes to talk about issues, and he likes to ignite the followers or citizens of Kenya. And after that, if he, like my friend said, his itinerary was to go back there, the pressure was too much across the country, and you cannot tell me that or as citizens we are fools, or Kenyans we are fools, that we erupt all of a sudden because of a statement made by an older politician. We expected more than that. You cannot say all of us don't know what it means by an advice and what it means by an incitement. Because it is not only the people of Jubilee, but across the country. Even you can see the videos. Even we are talking, in today's topic, we are discussing about the role of social media in this. What went viral means it is a concern for the many. And we know him as an elder, someone who has been in politics for long. He's an older politician among all of them. And even his statement yesterday, when he comes out and say NYS, not NYS, police KDF. KDF is being used to train for, to be used in elections. Those are common statements he normally makes at this time. He knows the possibilities. He knows how to set an agenda. He wants us to deviate from the main course and start discussing about what he really wants. What we need right now as a country is we need agendas, we need solutions. He was supposed to launch a manifesto, of which inside information says he was presented a document he had not studied, or it had some copies, it had been copied from somewhere. Plagiarism. So it has to be postponed, so that it has to be amended and the rest. And all these things we know. We and social media can say, you see, at times, as much as they have loyal supporters. This is a discussion we intermingle. I intermingle with Getora, intermingle with Wakoli, and they tell us by the we made a blunder.
No.
So they copied a lot of things in the manifesto. That's why they had to.
Let's allow Wakoli and then we'll come to
Willis, I want to first of all put my friend Ketero on the spot, because it's talking about some rumors, innuendos. I'll be happy if you'll quote for us a statement from what Raila said, just a word that means or indicates some sort of incitement. That one I'll be comfortable with it. When it comes to the issue of the manifesto, I'm privileged to have been one of the committee members, technical committee members that was drafting that manifesto.
So you are the insider.
Yes, and I can tell you for sure that the manifesto that the NASA brigade has developed is the best hope for this country. Is the canon that this country has ever been looking for. That's why our presidential candidate is referred to as Joshua, and we are giving him the tools that will make sure that the canon that Kenya has been looking for is achieved. On the issue of, you talked about Raila's statement yesterday about KDF. Let me tell you that Raila has been on this field for quite long. He understands, he knows, he has intelligence, he has information. When he came up with the issue of NYS, people rubbished him. People said he's like a madman. When he came up with the issue of Eurobond, people talked. People said all sorts of things. When he came up with the issue of Muranga, the water project, people talked so much things. And for this one, I can assure you that we have facts, we have evidence, we can present it anytime on the involvement of the security agents in the forthcoming general election. So we just want to make it clear that we don't have interference. Let political players play their politics. Let other arms of the state. Willis, you have seen even cabinet secretaries campaigning for sure, and there's something that we didn't want. The spirit of the 2010 constitution did not envisage a situation where we'll have a cabinet secretary going on campaign trail. We have seen Eugene all over. We have seen Mwangi Kiunjuri making adverts, and these adverts are spending Kenya's money, taxpayers' money. Why do we have cabinet secretaries campaigning? Now, if you have seen that, what makes you not think that the government is hell-bent to employ state security in the forthcoming general election?
You cannot separate the two. You cannot separate the government and the cabinet secretaries. As much as we do, when we do our politics, definitely we have to refer to what has been done by various ministries. And when you see at times like a cabinet ministry being asked to showcase what they have done. That is not campaigning. You have to differentiate between the two. Or you want to say, now since they are since they are cabinet secretaries, they are not supposed to be in the same podium or the same platform with the president. Yet the cabinet secretary works for the government. So at times his role in any platform differs from a politician. He comes and says, this is what has been done. And to make it even very clear, this is the only government that has been focused on development and agenda-based.
You are taking us out of...
no, I'm just actually answering
out of the role.
This is what we expected from NASA when you go to your campaigns. Tell us how you're going to change this country. Tell us what kind of plans do you have. But since all those days, Raila, you've talked about him being a Joshua. Has he been Joshua since the day you were born? He has wanted to save this country. Why has the elders of his age have not allowed him to do so? Does he expect that our generation will do?
Definitely, our generation will do by far. We all know about the Kenyan Constitution, Article 55, that talks about the young people. Jubilee government, you had the luxury to have actually been the first government to operate under that constitution. What have you done in the lives of Kenyans when the constitution talks about access to quality education and training, issues of employment, issues of youth empowerment? Definitely there is you have done very, very little in improving the lives of a Kenyan young person, and that definitely gives us as young people a reason why we believe that Raila is a Joshua. On the issue of KDF, candidly speaking, your government, we have infiltrated your government, and that one you should know, that we have infiltrated in your government. There is nothing that Jubilee government will do that will not have a clue of what they are doing. We actually know you are A to Z. And therefore, in the last general election, I was privileged to have been in Bomas of Kenya. When we say that the military that time participated in botching that elections, we were witnesses. We saw a whole brigade of the leadership of the KDF just walking into that, of which it was not reported in the media, walking into that media. So walking into that that premise. So even this time, we are just questioning IBC. We are not interested in many things as NASA. We are only interested in a credible, free and fair elections. And if that one happens, definitely we know we will take over power, and then this country will be more peaceful than ever before. But don't try to gun anyone, like what the Interior CS came out to explain. That is not we cannot just issue a statement now and you immediately come out and defend that statement. You need to carry out thorough investigations, and we are calling on Chebukati, the chairman of IBC, even warning on what, and we are still warning him that even these cabinet secretaries who are going out there campaigning, you know that it is out of the law. Kindly take control and take charge. This is your time to guide the Kenyan politics. As the chairman of IBC, take your role.
Right. Let us also. Ruth, what are your sentiments about this?
Yeah. What we want to see from this whole issue, we want to see what is there for the youth in this country. We make the largest percent. We make 70% in this country. We are the largest voters. How come then, for all the years, we have been left behind? Every time we are talking of non-issues, you know, we bring issues like now for land, which are very sensitive in this country. What we want to see is in those manifestos, what is there for the youth? What is there for the young woman out there? What is there for the women in this country and men as well? We are tired of this politics of land and things like that. Those things happened. If it's court, they go to court or whatever. What we want to see as young people, otherwise we are not going to vote for people who are not showing us what we'll have for dinner, for example. We want to see that life out there for a young person. A young person will go to school, get employment, and be able to put food on the table. We do not want these issues of old politics anymore. We want what can help the youth in this country, because that is what we are going to vote this time round. Yes, we are going to use the weapon. Now we know our vote will count. Yes.
Right. So Wakoli and Gideon and my brother as well. So do people agree? And I'll start with you, Wakoli, about some of these issues. Let's say the land issue. Yes, it is big in the promise of the discussion out there, but is it really, as she says, something that a youth 18 to maybe 30 will be keen to listen to?
Willis, I think my friend Ruth is missing the point as far as youth empowerment and development is concerned. Land is a factor of production. Right. Most communities, most families in rural areas depend on land. And land is something that you cannot avoid in any political discourse. This is something that will come up every time. Why do we have some families owning half of this country when others are living as squatters, when others are living in IDPs? Why? Because of the historical injustices. And these are some of the things that the NASA government want to address, so that as a young person, where you are, you have something that you can produce on. You have something that you can, you can be proud of. In my village, you will realize that some young men are not even able to pay dowries, to marry and pay dowry, basically because they cannot have, they don't have anywhere they can cultivate and produce and generate income and go to pay that dowry. Initially, dowry was being paid by the parents, but now it has been left for us to do it on our own. And if there is no land, then these young people will not have an opportunity to produce and generate income. So as much as we might want to hide and run away from the land issue, but it's something that is going to come up every time in any political discourse, as I've said. And when you look at just to give a glimpse of the NASA manifesto, which is yet to be launched, you realize that we have 4 key thematic areas. This is the area of nationhood, we have the area of state formation, we have the area of governance, and we have the area of socio-economic development. Those 4 thematic areas capture the aspirations of young people. We are talking about a young person getting, a number at birth, a number that this young person is going to use for the entire of his life. You don't need ID number, passport number, I don't know, NSSF number, NHIF number. We are going to give, in our manifesto we are saying, as a young person or as a person in Kenya, born in Kenya, when you are born, you are given a number on your birth certificate. That will be your number for the entire of your life. So that we have a scenario where you don't have to carry so many documents of identification. And that's a very important aspect as far as youth is young people are concerned.
How does that improve the life of a youth?
When
not carrying documents?
When you are carrying so many documents in your pocket, you have ID, you have passport, you have, you
don't have to carry all of them together.
You have a number that identifies you as a Kenyan. We are just trying to avoid this workload on the back.
How will that help a youth put food on the table?
That's why I was saying
you want to put food on the table?
Yes.
You need putting food on the table depends on creating investment environment for Kenyans. And investment environment is not about just talking.
How are you going to do that?
Putting is about reviving industries in our socio-economic pillar. We are going to revive industries that have collapsed. I'll talk, for example, in my community, in Western region, industries that were there, sugar industry has collapsed. Pan paper, they are telling us they revealed, but there's no smoke. They are telling us it's digital. We don't see anything. You see Kikomi in Kisumu collapsed. You see, there are so many things that have collapsed. So as another government, to ensure that young people put food on the table is to revive those industries, to revamp the economy of this country, so that we attract investors. Investors invest and create opportunities. From what we are seeing in this government, Willis, just give me some time. What we are seeing from this government is that we have institutionalized corruption. and corruption has sent away investors, and by sending away investors, we have money to collapse the economy. That's why you see so many young people just hovering around. They don't have opportunities. So we need revival of the economy, and that is agenda number 1 on the NASA.
So what is there was
you allow me?
Yeah,
because that is
you had asked a question.
You're going to speak the same language.
No, not the same language. He had asked a question. I just want to take his point home, so that we don't deviate from actually what he raised about how is the issue of land relevant to the discussion of empowerment to young people. And definitely we say that land has been a very emotive issue for Kenyans, and there are a lot of reports that came out. We know that there was the Ntungu report, and then out the TGRC report, and definitely there are a lot of historical injustices that has happened, that all of it emanated from the issue of land. And therefore, for every government, the issue of land, for this Kenya to be cohesive and to prosper, any government that comes in must address the issue of land adequately. And Jubilee government has really failed to address the issue of land. That's why you can see in Jubilee there is Mr. Mashamba, Arab Mashamba, because they have insatiable appetite for this thing called land. And therefore I want to say this, especially coming from the Maasai Jama community, one of the marginalized communities, that as now when you move around within Kajiado, or you go to Narok, or to go to Samburu or Laikipia, we all know the issue of Laikipia, where all those ranches are just idle, and there is a whole community without land there. And the issue of leasing, we know the intrigues that surround the leasing of that land. And then when you go to Kajiado, you will find a family of young people of my age who are purely squatters. And this person, you could be told when you grew up that your father had 1,000 number of acres, or even almost of 1,000 acres. But now you cannot even you can't understand, you can't comprehend how that land, how now you are living as squatters. So and that one definitely destabilizes the lives of those young people. So we want to say, and I want to urge that the young people of this country, that as NASA comes in, actually one of our agenda will be, or it is there, that to ensure that every Kenyan own a piece of land, because it is a factor of production.
Earlier I had stated that NASA postponed their manifesto because the intelligence inside, of which they are our friends, said the whole manifesto was Jubilee.
Can I clarify on the issue of postponement?
Let me finish. Let me finish.
No. It's something
let me
that
finish.
you're repeating so oftenly, and I want to put on record. The postponement of the manifesto was because of the defeat celebration that we're having. And we want to give our Muslim brothers ample time to also participate in our manifesto.
Okay. Now
so we withdraw that statement.
You will give a lot of reasons, but that is one of the reasons. And even from your explanation about identification since childhood, that is still a model of Jubilee. And that was devised by the Ministers of Education. Matiang'i, he said, let me take you slowly. Let me take you slowly what we have actually...
5 years you have done nothing.
A minute. Matiang'i ensured that in the new curriculum, student will be assessed from primary to higher level of education through continuous assessment. And the reason as to why Jubilee has decided to reform education system is for the people of like you and me, so that you may understand the history and the geographics of this country. And in our education system that is actually that has been rolled out, history will be a mandatory subject, so that someone like Wakoli and Getora understand that in this country we are composed of different people, from pastoralists, from Nilotes, from Bantus. And when it comes to Nilotes, you cannot talk about in Western and in Nyanza the Nilotes. Their major activity is basically fishing. They don't value that much about land. If you take them near the lake, they are comfortable with the lake. When you talk about pastoralists like the Maasai, the Ma community, and the Kalenjin, what we value is different. We value land because we keep our animals there and the rest. And when you go to Bantus, they like farming. So if you understand the history, when you speaking,
in this country,
let me finish. You see, these are the factors that like more of globalization, or when you live together, you tend to understand. For me to exist in a community like this, I have to try ABCD. So once you understand that history, you will be in a position to provide policies with a plan, and that is what NASA has been missing. And as I was telling you, entire manifesto of NASA was Jubilee. And when you talked about that you have infiltrated government, remember, we collapsed, we dissolved more than 12 parties to come together. When you talk about Jubilee, you mean Jubilee is a national party. You can talk about in Nyanza, you can talk about in Turkana, you can talk about in Central, in Rift Valley, and you'll still find members of Jubilee, because we are trying to rewrite, rejuvenate the positions or the tradition of politics in this country. And we want to shape it in a way that any young person can intermarry, can do business wherever you are, and you may be able to be a proud Kenyan. And finally, you talked about young people. No, let me stick to young people. You talked about young people have not benefited from this. In fact, this is a new Kenya developed immediately after 2013 when we got to power. You talked about KDF coming to Bomas of Kenya. Who was in power that time? Prime Minister was there. Why is he right now trying to give us speculation? He might think this might happen because he's a scared presidential candidate.
Thank you. This one, it will not get an answer. It will be fair on my side. One is that the young people of this country are the most disappointed lot at the moment, because they had a lot of expectations from the Jubilee government. When Jubilee took over power, the highest positions or public positions that the appointment that they made, starting from the cabinet secretaries, they just left out young people, and there was even a ministry for young people, the one that was attached to devolution. Even that ministry, they could not give it to a young person. So when they appointed the PS, permanent secretaries, they still left out young people completely. And this is a government that rode on the goodwill of young people when they were taking over power. When now they started the National Youth Service, they said we are rebranding this one. It was just a project to save on public funds, and that one just collapsed. There was the National Youth Council, that was which was a system that was formed just to enable empowerment of young people. They ensured that one that they have starved it out of fund, that it doesn't get any funds to run. When it talks about employment, they never minded about employment of young people. They even collapsed the economy. So this is a government that has no interest for the young people of this country. So Keter, you must be a worried young person now, a young leader for the Jubilee.
And also, I just want to, because we have very few minutes, I think 4 minutes, so I'm going to allow us to give our final comments, unfortunately, about some of these very emotive issues, and hopefully we'll be back again next Wednesday to continue to ventilate on these issues. I can see you already have a warrior face, so keep it. So we will just keep brief as we go around and give our final sentiments, because Cheche is going to be up next.
Okay, I'll start from where Ketora's left. In the just ended parliament, Sakaja came up with a bill, the Kenya National Employment Bill, which is now an act, 2017 Act. In that act, it was meant to promote employment among youth. It was National Youth Employment Act. But the Jubilee government ensured that the word youth in the whole act was removed and replaced by Kenyan, which means that we are promoting employment for all Kenyans, not necessarily youth. That shows you how the government of Uhuru Kenyatta is very insensitive on the sufferings of young people. Lastly, I want to mention the statistics that we saw yesterday on the election IBC statistics on voters. You realize that young people between the age of 18 and 35 have now clobbered over 9 million votes, or 9 million registered voters. And this is a huge number, this is a huge constituency that any interested candidate, presidential candidate, should not ignore. So I just hope that all presidential candidates, as they form their presidential campaign teams, they will ensure that young people are also incorporated in those teams, to ensure that those young people who are in those campaign teams, presidential campaign teams, go out there and mobilize their young people to turn out and vote, because I'm sure this election will be won on the basis of voter mobilization, on the voter turnout. So it's not about we have this number in this region, we have this number in that region, but how best as a political player are you going to mobilize your supporters to turn out to vote? Most voters may turn out to vote out certain people, and I know most young people will turn out to vote out Jubilee because it has failed on its policies. Thank you.
Before I make my final sentiment, I would like to say that in this country it is buying seller and willing seller and willing buyer of land. So if there are any issues, let's use the right channels. For example, we have courts in this country. Let us use the right channels, but not to go out there in rallies and public, where the public are, and try to incite people. What we are asking the young people this time is, you come out and come out in large numbers. We need to vote for the right people. Let us look at the track record. Let us look into their manifestos. What do the manifestos have for us as youth, as women in this country? And with that, we'll definitely vote in the right leaders, and of course definitely looking forward for a win for Martha Karua in Kirinyaga early in the morning.
Yeah, thank you, Kenyans. NASA, led by Raila Odinga, is so concerned about the lives of young people, your empowerment, your education, and all spheres of lives. So I want to urge all young Kenyans that by August 8th, let's all ensure that we have come out to vote, and that we'll have voted in NASA. Thank you.
To the young supporters of Jubilee and the young citizens of the little citizen in this country, my message to you is, don't accept to be used by politicians. Rather, ask them what you need. Ask them to give you solutions. And Jubilee has done it before, has delivered, and we urge many of them to support Jubilee in the re-election of Uhuru and Ruto. And we have much more in store, and we are going to complete more projects that we had started, from the youth fund, from the employment, from the education sector, from the foreign policies, from the ICT, because we have registered the highest number of exported workforce even in Africa, and that is the aspiration of Kenyans. We expect to do more when it comes to ICT, skill development, and also knowledge-based empowerment, and that is, you will be able to see in our launch of manifesto that is coming soon.
All right, thank you very much. That was Gideon Kitera, the chair of the Jubilee Youth League. Also, we had John Ketora, the chair, Bernard Wakoli, Ford Kenya Youth Chair, and Ruth Mkuba, who is the deputy women leader. Right. All right, so don't go too far. We still have amazing music, and also church is up next. The guest today is Eric Hiraide, who is the government spokesperson. He'll be with Udok Amimo and also Charles Odhiambo and Mutegi Njao. That's coming up next. The hashtag to use at that time will be Cheche, and the SMS line will be 22422. For now, though, we take a short commercial break. Good morning.